welcome everyone to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are podcasted. You can find them at ArtistFirst.com. Send us your questions and comments to dj@artistfirst.com. And here are your co-hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, Z-Man. And I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
And she's Margaret. And tonight, my voice will be brought to you by the ghost of Luther Vandross. And Margaret will be brought to you by the ghost of whatever coffee she's drinking right now. Okay. And you can tell we're just in fine shape tonight. But it's winter, and we're going to persevere.
Right.
We're going to carry on.
It's okay.
Because you can't wait for spring to be happy. And it's sort of an echo of what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to preface this, and I'm going to let you take it over in just a momento, but I'm going to preface this by saying that we came across the author, I guess, of our quote tonight, watching a singing competition that she happened to be in. And the thing that struck, at least me, about her almost immediately was her light, her presence, because it reminded me of that light that I've seen before in similar situations. But then it was, not only her song, but her words that really struck home, because she's right there. She's right at the moment, in the moment, because you don't get there without making the journey, and the journey is difficult.
Right.
So I'll let you take it over. But her name is.
She sings. When she sings, she goes by the name of Nightbird. But her first name is Jane. And she had said, after she had sung, because the judges were looking at her, realizing that she's dealing with cancer. And her spirit was so bright, she didn't look like she had a care in the world. But she had told them that she had cancer in her lungs, her spine, and in her liver. So her song was, "It's Okay." But the phrase she used, which struck home, was, "You can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy."
Yeah. And
that statement reverberates through the cancer ward, especially on the peds ward, because children, they're not really interested on making a long-term plan of, I'm going to play at this or do that. They're right in the moment. And in the moment, they want to have fun. They want to play. So they decide automatically that they're going to be happy right now. I'll just get through whatever I got to get through so I can do what I really want to do.
Right.
And it's a beautiful thing, because it's very clear in one's life that all you have is this moment, this now moment. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. And the past is a dream. It's something that you're like, In fact, one of the lines in her song was, "I wrote 100 pages and I burned them all. I burned them all." She thought she knew herself, and she said, "I think I lied." She lied to herself.
As we all do.
But so honest and so very real, very there.
Yeah.
The soul is so bright.
Yeah, so, I mean, her song is, you can go and find her song very easily if you look up her name, but But back to her statement, the part that struck me about, apart from what we said, because that also did, was you can't wait. And that phrase, you can't wait, is what most adults spend their lives doing. Waiting for this investment to come true, waiting for the perfect moment to go on vacation, waiting for all of the ducks to line up and all the stars to come into a line, and just until it's the perfect moment, until everything kind of postponed until you have almost given yourself or allowed yourself permission to say, well, okay, now everything is done. All the things that I have on my list, all the check boxes, all the stuff that I think I have to have is there. It's all in one place. I've got it all lined up. Now I can be happy. And you see people do that, either having been taught to do it or kind of emulating those around them. And yet they have this very dissatisfied sort of look on their faces, and the sentiment, were it to be expressed, and you may hear that once in a while, is they say, well, won't it ever be ready? Won't it ever be done? It seems like there's always another thing, no matter what. I have 99.9% of everything I need, but then there's this. And I don't get this, I can't do that. And they sit there, in essence, and quantify and put this artificial sort of hurdle, which never gets lower. It always gets higher, or there's always one more box to check, one more bill to pay, one more thing to do, until I can until I can retire, and you'll come to the end of your life and never having reached the end of that list, because that list doesn't have an end. There's no way to get to the point where, in essence, life isn't hard anymore.
Well, if you understand that life is hard, and you just take that as the basic premise of the existence here, that's when you realize that idea that if all my ducks are in a row, then I'm going to be happy. And the statement, you can't wait till life is not hard. It's like, no, life is hard. You will be tested. There will be moments. If you're blessed enough not to have hard moments, then God has blessed you. I think that's wonderful. But if you've lived and have been put to the test, the fire, where your life or the life of someone you love is on the line, and you've got to make decisions accordingly. Most people, they turn away. They don't want to touch that. The initial response is, well, I'm not qualified to make that decision on what treatment we're going to take to save this person's life. And they're like, well, you're the doctors. Can't you tell me what I have to do? And that's when reality hits, because the doctors will turn to you and say, we can't decide that for you. You must decide the way you're going to go for your child. And that was an ongoing conversation between the parents. It's like, how they want me to choose. How am I going to choose? And then your connection to something deeper comes up, because you can reason yourself into madness because they will give you a whole slew of possibilities. And if you do the traditional method of pros and cons, it will make you crazy, because every method has a pro and has a con. You realize at that point there are repercussions to that. Maybe down the line you're going to have to where are you now?
Yes, I mean, the circumstances that you find yourself in are very clear at that point. In some ways, the earlier statement that you said just a moment ago, the realization that you can't wait until life isn't hard is because life is always hard, whether whether it's hard at that level. And I think at that level, the level of let's see, being faced with a life-threatening disease, at that level you realize that there's a certain singularity, there's a certain clarity. You can run away, you can close your eyes, but the singularity and the clarity of your situation will not be denied. It will not be hidden from. And yes, you're beset on all sides, searching for someone to relieve you of this burden, whether the burden is of making decisions or the burden is just of dealing with this particular affliction. And what you throw to the side, besides that, is you'll throw to the side all of your plans. Oh, well, I was going to do this, and I was going to do that, and oh, I can't do this. And some people are overwhelmed with these regrets, in essence saying that I nearly had everything ready to go. I was all set. I had the car, I had the house, I had the this, I had the that. I was ready. I was just about ready to be happy. And then this comes in, and throws everything to the wind. And now I have to wait forever, and I have to deal with this and this whole litany of despair, if you will.
Well,
and that's all wrong.
When Chris had gotten sick, he was ready to go to school, go off on the bus, and I am thinking, oh, good, 2 of them will be at school,
right,
and youngest one will be at a preschool, and I'll have a moment to myself. And here I am thinking, okay, pretty soon I'll just have some time for me.
Yeah.
And then reality hit me between the eyes. And I realized that I've been living in a dream, thinking that I can just control things, and if only they could, just go to school. It's like, no, you don't understand. Child is fighting for his life. You're dealing with a kind of disease that gave no quarter. It was exceedingly aggressive. So that's when you realize, well, we have today. We have today.
And I think you come to that. It takes time. You have to where Nightbird got to, and where the kids in the cancer ward got to, and where you got to, and Chris got to, and we all got to, was this spot, this sentiment, which is why it rings so true. But it is as profound a statement as perhaps ever been said. Buddha's all life is suffering. It has no level of profundity beyond this one. In essence, this could be the coda to all life is suffering. But you can't wait for all life to stop being suffering before you decide to be happy.
Right.
The second part of this is perhaps the most central portion, is before you decide. Because in that shows the amazing power that you have. There is nothing outside of you which will make you happy. There's no amount of waiting that you can do for it all to be perfect, to allow you to be happy.
Isn't that an interesting thought, though? If you think about it, it's like, I've got to have all these in place, and then I'm happy.
Right.
And you sit there and you go, are you really happy? I mean, joyful, happy dance happy, because suddenly all this is like in place. And I look at that like, I don't know. I don't know what your experience then of life is. If what matters is just checking the boxes off. Okay, this is good. This is done. This is easy.
Well, and I like what you put there is also very interesting, because in essence, the checking the boxes off means that you're not just waiting to be happy, you're also minding the store. And by that I mean is that you're constantly checking over everything, constantly making sure that everything is done. And it's a certain illusion or a certain fantasy of staticism, of this, okay, it's perfect now, stop the world, I want to get off. Everything has to freeze right now because now it's perfect. And if one femtosecond goes beyond this or right before it, it wasn't perfect. Well, then that's not a happy state. That's an endlessly preoccupied state.
My question is the word hard. People have different definitions of what they think is hard in their lives.
That's true. And
if they thought for a moment, well, wait, how do I define hard in my life?
That's a great. Go ahead, go on with that.
Well, let's face it. You're thinking, oh, my car broke down, or I had to walk to someplace to get to the gas station,
Hangnail.
Or up in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Most people find that very hard.
Right. Didn't get my raise.
Someone else got a promotion over me.
Over me.
Or I lost my job.
Yeah. Or all these. I don't want to say what you're going. You go where you're going. I like where you're going.
Well, if you think for a moment, because all that is based on the fact that you are capable of breathing today. And getting up and taking care of your needs. You don't need help going to the bathroom. Which is very hard for a lot of people. It's a basic function when you lose the ability to be independent.
Yeah, I think I like that what you're saying, but I mean the idea of defining hard. I think that hard is this sort of fungible concept that we use in essence as sort of a shield or as sort of a way of parsing out our time. Oh, that's too hard. I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend all that time. Oh, that person. Oh, they have it really hard. I'm better than they are. I never want to be that. I would never want to have it that hard. Or that oh, this is such a burden. I have to take care of this person, and so the idea of hard is a very relative, subjective. This isn't an objective measure.
It's always comparative.
Yes.
Always. You're comparing something to something, and you're saying, well, that's hard.
Mm.
And you sit there and you go, really? Is that all you're using as your criteria, that, this happened and this didn't happen, so that's hard?
Well, it's judgmental, and it's always about drawing a distinction between you and the other.
And whether or not you're comfortable.
Exactly. It has to do with your comfort.
Yeah, when it comes right down to it, hard is when you're really uncomfortable with the state that you happen to be in.
There's one other thing, Margaret, about hard. you always are giving yourself the choice. Oh, that's too hard. I don't want to. See, if it's hard, I can also say no. Or try to. But real hardness, real things that are hard, life things that are hard, you don't get to say no. In fact, you're given no choice. And here's the worst part about it: whether you like it or not.
Yes, there is no choice. It happens to you, and you have to roll with the punches. It won't matter if you scream, rant, or rave,
right?
Because circumstances will not change.
Right.
You must adapt, and this is where you begin to put together your own level. What is important to you? What's important in this moment?
Before you go too far, the adapt part is what people really think is hard. Because what does adapt mean? This means that I have to change. You see, if it's too hard and I don't want to do it, then I don't have to change. I just have to not do it. Or if it's too hard. But when it's really hard, and you have to do it, or it's done to you, whether you like it or not, there's only one thing you can do. You have to change you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's talk about hard. Nobody likes to change me.
Mm-hmm.
I like to change everybody else. But in the changing of you is where you realize what true hardness is. And in the changing of you, you realize that you have a choice. You can decide to be waiting until things are not hard. Or...
Again, do you think about living or live?
Ooh, even better.
Because when you're qualifying whether this is hard or not, you're just so mental that it hurts to talk to you. When you're living in the moment, none of that really matters. And that's what I always found fascinating with the kids. They're not going to go off the deep end because stuff is happening. They understand. In fact, it was more than one child, I remember. They were very much aware of their protocols, what they would have to deal with. And if there was a new video game in the playroom and they all wanted to play it, they would talk to each other and say, well, I have to take this treatment later, and I don't know if I'll be able to play the game. Can I play it now in front of the person that's there? And they say, oh yeah, sure, because I can play it later. And it's just rolling with that. This beautiful sharing of, okay, let's share in something really good. Let's try this and see if it's any good. But their treatments were brutal. Okay? Some of these treatments, the kids would get it, and then they would be in their bed for days because it was so debilitating on their bodies. But they basically said, no, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try. Let me do this. And then later on, they'll go, did you play the game? And it's like, oh, yeah, what'd you think? And they would share information about it. Just like kids.
Exactly, because they weren't waiting, again, to go back to Nightbird, they weren't waiting for life not to be hard. Also, there wasn't the judgment of, my life's harder than yours, so I should go first. It wasn't that at all. But that's what people do. You mentioned earlier about the mental spin. The mental spin of waiting for everything to not be hard is exactly that. You're sitting there literally cataloging everything you know about and putting a judgment on it. Oh, okay, no, not quite. It's like building this endless tottering tower of Jenga blocks, and pull one out and the whole tower collapses. And the kids, or those like Nightbird who realize that you decide to be happy, is that you learn that even in the midst of what others would consider not just hard but but impossible, that you don't, that doesn't matter, that the happiness is in that moment, no matter how hard it may be. You go beyond the judgment of the exterior, the circumstance.
The judgment becomes a distraction.
Well, I think it becomes irrelevant, right, to them.
I mean, if you bring it in, it becomes a distraction instead of, well today
yes.
I have this today. I can do this
you
today.
You turn it around. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, you don't need it. You realize how superfluous it actually is. It's like, you think it's hard, but then you know what? What's going to come down the pike? Right. And you just realize that it's okay. I have today.
It's okay. I mean, the ego, the mental, the egoic aspect wants things to be in the judgment, the I don't like realm, the I will not do realm, and likes to not allow itself happiness unless all of its mental checkboxes are checked. The heart, the being, realizes that none of this, no part of this form or of circumstance matters. That the all life is suffering, revelation. Wow, that's a hard one. That is hard. My lips almost snapped off. That thing is irrelevant to the aspect of being which is in the now. In the now, you seize that moment, live it to its fullest, and find the happiness in it. And people will say, well, how can you possibly be happy? You're in a cancer ward with a terminal diagnosis. And you look at them and go, I'm happy anyway. What are you going to do about it? And they don't know what to say.
Well, that is the question, isn't it? How can you possibly be happy when you've been given a death sentence?
It's been, and it's asked in this not just wondering tone, but almost there's an undercurrent of jealousy in it, or of almost...
It's disbelief. How is that possible?
But almost to the point of looking at them and thinking, well, I want that, but I don't want that. How can you have such happiness or such an attitude under these circumstances? I mean, you saw it in that competition when this woman got up and basically said in a very matter-of-fact tone, I'm dying.
Well, she basically said that she had cancer in her lungs, her spine, and her liver.
Well, I realize I'm saying basically the message that they heard was, I'm dying. I believe one of them said, well, you're not okay. She said, no, I'm okay. I have a 2% chance to live. That's not zero. Well, most people sit there and go, 2% is zero. And that's where you're wrong. 2% is not zero. And you said it earlier. You're still drawing breath.
Yeah. We can come back to this on the other end of the
we
break.
We are out of time because I'm past it. So let's go back to the studio, and we'll have a little discussion, and we'll come back and we'll talk more about happiness.
The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief Dev is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side, as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lyons is Book 1 of the adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Thanks for joining us on The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Back to your co-hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
I'm not going to croon things.
Right.
Not going to croon things. Because that would make everybody think life was hard. Including me. But tonight we are talking about, really I think what could be, it could be the central revelation of someone's life when they come to this point. Now, listening to us on the radio is not going to do anything for you. You can listen to people talk about their own experiences and how it affected them all day long. In fact, one of the things people fool themselves, Margaret, with is that by reading about other people's hard lives, that they can learn something about, how to live, how to become happy, 7 steps to happiness and so on. And unfortunately, that would be wonderful if it were true, but unfortunately it's not. We often bring in Eckhart and Eckhart Tolle in this regard. The thing that you learn, and that what Nightbird's quote really is about, is that the moment of now is a moment in which you can decide to live in the egoic, in the this is hard and this is not hard, or live in the moment and decide one thing. Will I be happy?
Am I happy?
Am I happy? And it's the am I, and it's totally, and he's right. I is one of these words which, well, you're always saying that you shouldn't be focused on the I. You shouldn't be. This I is the being I. This is the I am I. So the am I, or I am happy, is be. Be happy. Be I happy. I be happy. The English is not good, and the words go bad here, but be, the being state, is the state in which all things happen to you. All these things, all the terrible, awful, wonderful things of existence happen to you. And you have one scintillating instant, the moment of now, to say, I accept where I am, and I'm going to be happy. Because the accept where you are is not judgmental. It's just, it is. The one way of saying it is what it is. Right now, I have cancer. Right now, I am a being. Right now, I'm going to be happy. That's it.
Have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And when you have a diagnosis of a serious illness like that, you just have to, it's like, okay, well, this is where I'm at. I have to deal with this.
Right.
But today is good.
Right. And, once, people come to that, unfortunately, at these incredibly difficult points, because you don't have a choice. You can't hide it. You can't cover it up. You can't put makeup on it. You can't do anything about it. It just is.
Well, you have to make the decision of whether or not you're going to entertain that mental aspect with all its possibilities and recriminations and I shoulda, woulda, coulda stuff, which is stuff that normally when you're in your teens and 20s, that's usually when that stuff starts rearing its head, because you believe that you should be able to control your life or begin to do that. At least the society tells you that. But when you're a child, it's like, no, they tell me I got to deal with this. Okay, I will deal with that, and we'll go on from there.
I think you're right about that. The kids find it in some ways easier.
Well, they're not sitting there believing that it's got to be a certain way. When you're in your teens, you start that whole process of it's got to be a certain way.
Right.
And that's all part of I'm supposed to discover who I am. Like you forgot who you were when you weren't a teenager?
Yeah, I think in truth we do forget who we were. And it is a journey of sometimes rediscovery. But I don't want to go too far down. I liked where you were. The kids, the souls that have not yet taken on this burden of, finding myself, they are themselves. And in the being state, you do find it easier. But it can come to a human being at any stage of their life. And the inevitable is it will come to you at some stage of your life. At some stage of your life, life's not just going to be hard. Life is going to be undeniably hard. It will be something which you cannot like or dislike, which you cannot say no to, which whether you say no or yes to doesn't matter. In fact, your opinions, your thoughts, judgments, feelings about it don't matter. And when you reach the end of your opinions, thoughts, and feelings, people think, well, there's nothing left. I don't have any opinions, thoughts, or feelings. And yet, there is something left. And that's why Tolle says suffering is what brings people to the stillness and to the realization of being. Because once you burn all the rest of that away, all the thoughts and feelings and likes and dislikes and judgments and all that stuff kind of gets thrown onto this great fire of now, of the reality of now. And it burns away, and you go, wow. Whatever I feel about this, whatever I want or don't want, whatever I judge it, none of it is changing it. There's no part of my thoughts or feelings that can change this thing. What's left? Me. Just the being me. And the being me with the power to do one thing, to accept and decide. And people go, well, if you accept it, you're not deciding. Acceptance is the verb of being which says it is. And deciding is the verb of being which says I will.
Mm-hmm. You choose at that point, but you got to start somewhere.
Right.
And there's no qualification then. You can't change what's happening. And that's okay.
And that's okay. Say that again.
You have to be okay with the fact that you happen to be at this point in your life, your existence. There are things that you just can't control. And it's okay.
See, I think people get stuck on the word okay because they think okay means I agree, that I like it. It means okay, you like it. No, it's just okay. And if we just said it is, or is that so? It is, or is it? Is the same kind of, that's the reflection. It is, or is it? Is that so, or is it so? The okay is correct, but people think of it, you're just agreeing with it. You're not even fighting. You don't even care anymore.
No, they don't understand that. It's a control issue. When you say okay, that means okay, I'm in control. That's how they look at it. And you're just like, no, you don't get it. There is no control here.
Right, and it's okay.
And it's okay. Which usually makes people run screaming down the road because it's like, what do you mean?
Remember the book, this is going back a bit, it's I'm Okay, You're Okay? And it was a stupid book, but I mean, the whole point of it was that it was of acceptance of others. And it was a baby step in perhaps the right direction if you took it that way. But the acceptance, one of the great conceits, and it's fostered by the mind, is that we can change things. Because we can change things on a small scale, and we try to change things on a small scale. And much of what we do with our minds is about changing the physical world around us, thinking about it, making things. All those things are wonderful. But in truth, our ability to physically modify ourselves and our circumstances is very limited. So the mind hates that. And it builds up this gigantic wall of, nope, if I can't change it, it doesn't exist. Or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's a judgmental, we're talking mental, judgmental.
Right, but then reality comes in and sits on you and crushes you to a molecular layer and says, be here. And the mind's like, no. He's like, no, I'm sorry. Be here. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you feel. You have to be. The mind hates that. It runs screaming into corners. The being is left. The being understands. The being says, okay. And then the being has one more thing. The next moment, and the will. I will what? I will be
here.
I will be happy. I will be whatever it is I wish to be. But not understanding that I will be happy doesn't mean the circumstances will change. It doesn't mean that anything will change about what's happening to you, whether you're going to live or die. whether anyone thinks you're right or wrong, none of those stuff, all that external stuff doesn't matter. The I will is the deciding of the next moment's action.
I will choose.
I will choose
to be.
Choose to be happy.
That statement that she said, which was at the end of, after she had done her performance and it was off stage, she said, they gave me a 2% chance of surviving this.
Right.
But I wish people would understand, 2% is not 0%.
Right.
And it is just so wonderful. And with this huge, genuine smile.
Right.
And that is exactly the mindset that we saw with the kids. They didn't talk about percentages. Like, no, today's good. I'm going to do this.
And none of it was predicated, the I'm going to do this, on whether or not life was going to be hard or whether anything else had to be done. In other words, all the stuff that people would say, well, how can you do this? Because this is going to happen and that's going to happen and lightning's going to fall out of the sky and X, Y, and Z and dogs and cats living together. You can't be happy. And the kids would be like, no, I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to do this. Whether or not that happened, their will to do this, I'm going to go play a video game. Well, you couldn't. Okay. Circumstances are what it is now. But the decision to be happy, maybe that's part of it, Margaret. I think people say, well, you're deciding to be happy, so you're happy, right? Well, I'm going to continue to decide to be happy regardless of whether or not I am getting what I think will make me happy.
Yeah, it's not predicated on
stuff.
It's just, or doing whatever it is that you think you should be able to do. This is when the simplicity of life really steps in. And I think I've talked about this before, where the kids, what they would do down from the kitchen is they'd send up a cart with all kinds of treats and cookies on it. And the cart was small enough to be pushed around by one of the kids. So it would go down the aisles to each room to see if a person in the room would like to have a treat or something, a little something. And they had the most fun doing this because they get to do something so simple, like, I have a cookie. I know you like this cookie. I put it over here because I think we only had one of them. So Chris would bring the cookie out and do the napkin and the little plate and the whole. He came together with a little, almost like a ritual. That
right.
It's like, okay, we're going to share. And then once the kids were done, he would go into the doctor's and nurse's office and say, would you guys like a cookie? We have these left, and they would share. But joy of being able to just simply do that, even if the kids, a lot of the kids couldn't eat the cookie because they were going through chemo or something, nausea, but they wanted to have the cookie because this is their byplay. It's like, thank you. Oh, you thought of me. Thank you. Or I'm going to put it over here. I know you're having a hard time. I'm just going to put it here. At the beginning of there's usually a little vestibule before you walk into the room. So sometimes he would just signal and say, okay, I'm putting it here. But it's understanding it's these little things that make life sweet. Because they all knew that, tomorrow is not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed.
And even talking about it, right, is beyond what they weren't even saying that in an overt way. You mentioned it was a ritual that was a decision as part of the I'm going to be happy. Because none of these kids were out of the woods.
No.
And the one who is delivering cookies today could be the one lying in the bed unable to eat tomorrow. And they all, at a visceral level, understood that. And that didn't matter.
Right.
So to abstract it all, I mean, the kids and Nightbird are in the fire. And in the fire you realize that none of this matters. But in this everyday existence, the same thing applies. You know, we wrote a little something above Nightbirds, and it'll get posted eventually on the website. You know, none of us can wait to be happy. It is a base deceit that we play upon ourselves, that we can wait to be happy, that we have to get all the little things in a row and have all the stuff, and I'm a retirement, having this and this, and then I'll be happy. Because it becomes a unattainable and actually a life-wasting exercise. You are riding the stationary bike. You are getting nowhere. You have to get off that. You have to get off the treadmill. You have to say, life is never going to be perfect, and I shouldn't expect it to be. That waiting for external circumstances to make me happy is a waste of my life and my breath. And I need nothing. When you were born and you opened your eyes and saw the first glimpses of this world, at some basic level, you knew you were a being. And then something would provide you something you needed, nourishment, sustenance, warmth, and an undefinable sense of wholesomeness, of being goodness would enter your spirit, and that was happiness. Then we grew into this mental construct, and we push it away. Oh, that's the baby. This, that. No, that's the essential. The essential thing is that you can't find happiness. It's unfindable. You can't dig it up. You can't wait for it. However, you can be it wherever you are at any instant in time. And please don't wait. None of us should wait to being in the cancer wards with our whole lives burned away before we realize that. Because you don't have to wait that long. You can be happy right now.
Yeah. It's finding the joy of being.
Yeah.
Joy of being alive. I'm not kidding when I say, you have your next breath. You're able to breathe. You're able to get up and do things. And most people just, you're easily pleased. I remember someone saying that.
Well, it's so, you see, that's the denigration, because they're actually speaking, we do that and we speak to ourselves. Oh, I wasn't easily pleased, He's just a moron who doesn't understand things. No, people look at their pets and they say, oh, look, they're so happy. At some level they are, because they're not concerned with anything other than the moment. The famous dog whisperer always says, pets, dogs, live in the now. They don't worry about last week. They don't worry about the future. If there's a steak here, I'm going to eat it. If somebody's the alpha dog now, great. If I have to be the alpha dog, fine. It's the moment of now. Now, they're in a subconsciousness state. Human beings are in a consciousness state, but we are beset by our own egos, by our own emotions, by all of these things. We've got to rise up, not back down, not into an animalistic happiness, although there is certain connection there, but into a spirit-based happiness of realizing that this existence cannot be you. It can do all kinds of things to you, but you still are a being that can choose.
You are here in this moment of now. And nothing can stop that. Isn't that an amazing thought?
You say that again, because it's exactly true.
You are here in the moment of now, and nothing can stop that. An undeniable fact, which most people don't want to embrace. It's like, wait, shouldn't I qualify that somehow? It's like, no.
Right.
You are here in this moment, and it can't be taken away.
Nope.
In this moment to be.
Well, and nobody can stop you from being happy, no matter what they do. In fact, you can infuriate the hell out of your enemies by being happy despite all.
True. They look at you. Well, they look at you and go, what is wrong with you? And then, of course, what they say is you must be not too bright because you don't know enough not to be happy.
Right.
And you just sit there and you go, you
Wow.
are so mental. It's okay.
Yes.
I bless you, and you can stay right over there. I don't need to interact with you because I'm where I'm at, and I don't need to explain anything to you. That's the other thing. People want you to explain to them why you're doing what you're doing or why you feel the way you are, and you're looking at them going, I owe you nothing.
Right.
I had a friend who absolutely insisted he did the, excuse me, what is that called? I'm from Missouri. You have to show me.
Show me, yes, the show me state.
The show me state. You have to show me. And I looked at him like, you do your own work. You're so darn lazy. You don't want to think for yourself. You just want somebody to tell you. And it's like, no, you can't. I'm not falling for that. Love ya.
Well, the way of saying it is that we all have our own journey, and but the power of this moment is that it's yours and yours alone, regardless of how many other hundreds of billions and trillions of people are on the planet, and you in this moment can be happy. And I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret. And be happy. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.